Okay. I know the majority of the people that watch these videos are Canucks fans, and this might come as a little bit of a shock to see me making a video about this player and linking him to this team. Unfortunately, Vancouver Canucks fans, I just gotta say, we're not last. That's the problem here. The team is still winning games sometimes, and as a result, they are not at the bottom of the league, therefore they are not the frontrunners in the current Connor Bedard race. Let's go over to the NHL standings and review who exactly is number one and why this team might actually have themselves a shot at landing another first overall pick. The NHL, if you sort by points, currently has two teams tied for last place with 6 points. However, the Blue Jackets are the team that has the lowest points percentage because they've got 6 points in 12 games, whereas the Blues have 6 points in 10 games. They're not that much better than the Blue Jackets, but they are slightly better. Meaning that the Blue Jackets right now are the worst team in the National Hockey League, and it kind of goes to show when you sort by categories of goals against, hey, they're second last there in terms of goal differential, they are dead last, points percentage, they are last in terms of regulation wins, they are actually not last, no, they're tied for third last. So, that's nice. It's kind of crazy that Anaheim has 0 regulation wins in 13 games played. But either way, the Blue Jackets at the time of recording this audio are the frontrunners for one Mr. Connor Bedard. And as much as it pains me to make a video talking about this guy, linking him to a team that is not Montreal or Vancouver, I feel like it's been a month-ish into the year. We're about 15% through the regular season, so I guess we'll use this video as kind of a bookmark for what the season has in store, because right now, the first overall odds seem to be in the Columbus Blue Jackets' favor. Now, that's not to say that, for sure, the Blue Jackets are going to get the first overall pick. As we have talked about in prior videos, the 2023 NHL Entry Draft has itself a draft lottery process that in which we'll see a number of teams vying for the first overall spot. They just have the highest odds amongst those clubs. So, Connor Bedard in Columbus. This is an interesting conversation because if you had asked me before this season began, hey, who would be the mainstay contenders for Connor Bedard? I honestly would not have thought Columbus would have been in there. They had just gotten off to a pretty good offseason, I would think, where they signed Johnny Gaudreau, they acquired all these other players. I guess you could say that Eric Branson was not a good addition, but still, this team had itself an offseason for the ages, getting one of the best free agents we have seen hit the market in a very long time. Not to mention the fact that you have guys like Cole Sillinger. He's a young up-and-coming guy that was in the NHL last season after being drafted. He's still going to be here. Kent Johnson, a BCHL superstar that had made his way over to the NCAA and dominated over there, was going to be a part of this team as well. Igor Chinnikov, give him another year of development. You have other players that are breaking in. And of course, having Laine and Gaudreau as the 1-2 duo on the first line was going to be extravagant. Except, after a few injuries and a few sustained periods where some of these players weren't actually available for the lineup, you have yourselves a team that is now last. And I know I heard the comments, oh, the problem with this team is in the room, it's this, it's that. But at the end of the day, you know, it's difficult to go out there and say with any degree of certainty that the big T word, the one that rhymes with rank and is an actual thing used in war, it's hard to say that that's actually being pursued here. Of course, I'm talking about tanking, and I'm not going to go out there and say that the Columbus Blue Jackets are necessarily tanking for Bedard. Sure, you have practices like today where Kuraly, Voracek, and Laine were all gone, but it's not like that's a decision where it's like, okay, Laine, you can take practice off today, we kind of want to lose, so just not play, be bad, and we can get Bedard. That's not the plan here. Tanking is rarely ever accomplished in that sort of way, and for the Blue Jackets, I feel more so that it's just a combination of being sort of unlucky with injuries and not having a roster that is all too great assembled in the first place. Who knew that Oliver Bjorkstrand was this important to the team? Like, of course, I'm not going to say that one player makes or breaks a team, but just losing out on that type of player, losing out on the heart that he provides, you could definitely feel a difference in the the roster when you watch the Blue Jackets play today versus how you watch them play a few months ago, before they signed Gaudreau. And Gaudreau has been okay. I mean, I have him on my fantasy team. He's definitely been one of the more decent pickups in the league, but at the same time, Johnny Gaudreau isn't playing like the 115-point Johnny Gaudreau like he had been last season. Maybe that's the line mates, maybe that's the team itself, maybe that's just the circumstances, but at the end of the day, I mean, Johnny Gaudreau has 9 points in 12 games. Not terrible, but not what we expected at the same time. So it's definitely easy to go out there and say that the Blue Jackets have been underperforming, and I think that's more so a reason as to why they're first in the Bedard sweepstakes rather than them just intentionally tanking and losing games. If you go over to what Connor Bedard could bring this team, though, he would be the very first overall pick since Rick Nash, taken by the Columbus Blue Jackets in 2002. The Blue Jackets have had a few other picks in the top 10, top 5-ish range, the most recent one being, of course, Kent Johnson, taken 5th overall. I guess you could say Yurichek, who was taken 6th overall this most recent draft as well, who actually did play 2 games with the Blue Jackets before getting sent back down. But if you want to go to the highest of the highs, Pierre-Luc Dubois is the most recent guy taken 3rd overall by the Blue Jackets in 2016. He was traded for Laine. We all know the story. It was a very big deal. You also have yourselves, of course, the 2nd overall pick in 2012, who ended up being Ryan Murray, who admittedly is not really a 2nd overall caliber guy. Yeah, that's kind of a whiffed one, I would say. But either way, for Columbus, it's been a while since they've had themselves an actual cream-of-the-crop top 3, top 2-ish caliber guy. And for Connor Bedard, I mean, just imagining what a line of Laine, Gaudreau, Bedard could look like is terrifying to me. If there is any semblance that Connor Bedard is somewhat of the next Connor McDavid, you gotta remember McDavid was a point-per-game player in his first year. He was just taken out by Brandon Manning, which is why he didn't win the Calder that season. If Connor Bedard is everything that we think he should be able to be, he could very well realistically get upwards of 50, 60, 70 maybe points in the next season's worth of NHL play. And that's crazy because the guy's only 17 years old right now, and he's only 5'10". I think right now, though, seeing his 2-point-per-game number in the WHL, 31 points in 16 games played, he's on pace for 55 goals and 132 points, that kind of puts the nail in the coffin there. Connor Bedard is as ready as we'll ever see a guy be ready for the National Hockey League in 1 year's time. And if he's playing with 2 guys in Laine and Gaudreau who could realistically be Hall of Fame players by the time their careers are over, then, I mean, okay, good for him. And I say that pretty discontently because I'm a Canucks fan that wants to see Bedard on my favorite team. But at the end of the day, Columbus, y'all are first right now in the rankings. So talk in the comments your thoughts about the Blue Jackets and the idea of them drafting Connor Bedard. I'll see if I can make a jersey swap for the thumbnail. I don't want to use the same image that we made for the Vancouver jersey swap because I feel like that's just kind of cheating. I'll try to find another one, another headshot of Mr. Bedard himself that we can Photoshop a Blue Jackets jersey onto. Maybe not a reverse retro because there aren't any headshots with that, but either way, Connor Bedard, Columbus, this is the ranking right now. There are other teams in the mix. St. Louis is right there too, which is interesting. I mean, Ryan O'Reilly and Bedard on the same team? That's pretty interesting. San Jose, of course, is right there in the mix. Erik Karlsson is single-handedly making things more difficult for the San Jose Connor Bedard tank. Anaheim is right there too. Ottawa, Vancouver. By the way, they're playing each other today. Ottawa and Vancouver are, so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Which team blows the lead in the 3rd period so they could get closer and closer to that grand prize at the entry draft? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Connor Bedard and the Blue Jackets. I hope you enjoyed this video. Trolls 99 and bye.